Welcome to Imperial Interlude. This is episode 28 for the Book of Mandalorian, Season 1, Episode 6. And with me, as always, is Ralph. Hello, Ralph.
Hey, Tim. I think you mean the Book of Boba Fett.
What did I say?
Book of Mandalorian. Well, you could be right.
Well, given the quote-unquote
given
uproar
the episode,
in
yes.
the internet, it's already people proposing the writers aboard of Boba, which is completely bullshit.
Yes, it is. Well, I was thinking about this.
Before we start the episode, I've got one thing I've checked from the last episode. You know that somebody put out on there that the markings on the Naboo starfighter could be the markings of the one that young Anakin Skywalker was flying.
Yeah, it's not.
No, it's not. I just checked it before the show started, and no, it's not.
They actually came out and said so, I think, if I remember correctly as well. Someone came out from Lucasfilm and said no.
Well, it would have been a stretch for all I care. It would have been fun if that would have been one of the fighters that got almost blown up when Senator Amidala went to Coruscant in the second movie.
Oh, yeah. True. Yeah, that could have been one. I mean, I've got a correction as well of sort of something I said, which I know now because I went back and watched it listened to it a couple of times. It wasn't. When I said I thought it was Din Djarin talking about Boba.
Yeah.
In the trailer, it's not. It actually is the mayor.
Yeah.
As you said, and I was in the assumption and listened to it. I thought that sounds like Din, so I went back, re-listened to it, and then
if you listen to the voices of those two actors side by side, they are very, very similar.
Yeah, because it's Robert Rodriguez, isn't it? So, and they're both of Latin sort of descent. With Pedro being Puerto Rican, I think Pedro is.
And while we're on the subject of weird off-topic things, today I got something that is just adjacently interesting for fans of the Book of Boba Fett, because there's a thread on the German Asmodee forum regarding rules and rules reference books, and somebody was, I'd say complain is too harsh, but was asking, will the latest rules reference book get a translation? And actually an official member of the team said, yeah, look for news next week on that. You will be surprised.
I've got something adjacent to that as well before we discuss the episode, because it's going to be an interesting episode to discuss, to say the least. Did you watch the FFG? I'll get again. Did you watch the AMG stream on Wednesday?
No, I didn't.
Wednesday, it was Dallas Kemp, and he was painting two ATSTs up. Okay.
Yeah, I jumped into that stream for a second and then went off again.
Well, if you look at what is said on YouTube, but he also says it's in the description on YouTube, but he also says it in the stream that the two ATSTs that he's painting are for the Battle Force. And he also mentioned coming soon is the Shadow Collective.
Well, maybe AMG's finally getting their act together, and next week we will see some news about that. That would make for an interesting week.
It will be. I mean, it was just interesting that he mentioned Battle Force and it's two ATSTs. So if they're doing that starter box that we think the Battle Forces might be, those get people into the game thing, where it's just one faction in a box. Well, two ATSTs together. What's an ATST? €40, is it?
It's a chunky one. It's even more expensive. I think it was 50 or something. I'd be hard pressed if. No, let me start over. If they put two ATSTs in a box, the box will be way too expensive for new players. It'll make no sense. If he painted them up because they were showing two boxes. That again,
I'm not sure it was the standard ATST model. It looked, it was exactly the same. It was just, hinting. What I thought was it might be a single ATST with the snowtroopers, because that's what the battle box is supposed to be. It's going to be a Hoth box, isn't it? I think. Or was it Rebels a Hoth box? But I think
looking at that way, they could work. But I think we'll need to wait and see what they are actually making of it.
Yeah. But it was interesting that that the Asmodee, as you said, Asmodee Germany posted that about the about the rules, and then on the stream, Dallas Kemp mentioned the battle boxes and the Shadow Collective. So I'm wondering if they're finally, as you said, getting their act together to say this is what's coming.
Would be a nice change of pace.
Mm-hmm.
But getting back
Definitely.
on the Book of Boba Fett,
Indeed.
someone came from the desert, I think the
Mhm.
episode was called, which
Yeah, from the desert comes a stranger.
yeah, something along those lines. And
Mhm.
have you noticed that the intro music got a whole lot more westerny? Or is that my
yes.
imagination?
No, there's serious spaghetti western vibes in there.
So I'm not imagining things
No.
like a banjo or something.
But of course, when the episode was done and dusted and the director popped up, it was obvious who was the director. Even
Yeah.
from that front shot, you know, the moisture vapor. So it opens with the moisture vapor, several moisture evaporators, and the pikes sort of doing a deal, didn't it? And then
And a very westerny Cobb Vanth hearing.
yes, Timothy Oliphant channeling his character from Deadwood.
I'd say he would fit in that role with any Clint Eastwood western you could find.
Definitely, but he was definitely channeling. He's done 2 TV series additionally to but he's done a lot of stuff. But he's done 2 TV series which are very distinctively Western. He did Deadwood, the HBO show, but then he did another show called Justified, where he played a Texas Ranger who heads back to the American Appalachian Mountains, and it's very much the similar type of character. But that Justified was a modern setting, but it was like a modern Western.
Mm-hmm.
But very much Timothy Oliphant just suits that role of Cobb Vanth the way that they've structured Cobb Vanth. As did see that the writer of the book where Cobb Vanth appears came out this week and was unhappy with the way that Disney has been portraying Cobb Vanth. But it's like, as somebody mentioned in the, you know, he tweeted about it. So there was a couple of the Star Wars podcasts, and I think it was Star Wars Explained and something else mentioned about the fact is that Disney don't have to adhere to what was written in the books. You know, yes, those Aftermath and those books where Cobb Vanth first appears are canon because they were written, you know, to lead up into, I think it's The Last Jedi or Force Awakens. But the way that Disney didn't, you know, have taken the character, and especially Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, who've written the character, because they're the one that have written the live action version, they don't have to adhere to what the author thought Cobb Vanth would be, you know, from when he created the character in the books, you know. So,
yeah. And also,
you know,
let's face it, people change over time. So
exactly.
why should a character not be allowed to change?
Yeah, it's just that there has been over the past sort of couple of months. It's Chuck Wendig who's the author, has been very vocal about certain things, and you know he's not known to hold his tongue, shall we say, over things. And it's like, well, you don't really have an argument in this thing.
Reminds me a bit of the outcry of the author of The Witcher, who was unhappy on how his creation was depicted in the video game and the TV series. When I think to myself, yeah, but you sold these rights, so
yeah. And he was, and what was interesting about that one as well is he was on set and came to set and met Henry Cavill and the showrunner for The Witcher and did an interview with them. You know, there's footage of the interview, like the behind the scenes Netflix did, and he's blissfully happy, laughing and talking to them and all that.
Yeah, I guess he went to become unhappy when he realized a
that he wasn't
successful
getting
series isn't translating to successful sales of books.
Yeah,
because people are like that.
Yeah, well, yes.
But we're getting off topic. So,
well, it's an adjacent thing. So,
in a little transaction by the syndicate, which ends quite predictably with 3 dead pikes on the floor. And a fourth one. Bloody hell! I can't get my numbers together.
English.
The fourth one then having to trail off with just the ice cream bucket.
Yeah, with just the money. Yeah. And he left the space, and then he mentions about the space being lots of something to retire on. He went, well, maybe I'll retire. And then as the speeder disappears off, he goes up, opens it up with his Does he open up with his hand? He opens up with his
he
hand, doesn't he?
he
Or he
he
boots it
stands
open
up and uses his boot and kicks it over.
and then kicks it over. Yeah, I knew he kicked it over. I just couldn't remember if he kneeled down to open it and then stood back up to.
No, he
kick it
stood
over.
over it, looking down on it with a very
Yeah.
distinct look on his face
Mhm.
and kicking it.
Yeah, indeed. And then we cut to the N1 Starfighter.
No,
Heading to-
after that scene, we get the
Yeah.
very distinct Western music, and then we have a Naboo starfighter
We do.
going down onto what is supposedly Yavin 4, I guess.
I don't know, but there's lots of speculation around which one it is. But in the comics and the stuff, the canon and things about it,
Yeah,
especially around where the Jedi, where Kylo Ren was, destroyed the Jedi training school. Yeah, when Luke tries to kill him, the academy. They say it's on Yavin 4.
Yeah, and
I'm under the assumption it's Yavin 4, but it's not said which planet it is.
No, it's not really said. And to be fair, it's a green planet. It could be anywhere.
It could be. It's definitely not Endor.
or it's a very remote place of Endor that does look like the Endor we know. But that's also said for the parts of what we know of Endor, which looks like a jungle and is depicted as a jungle. This looks more like a Asian forest with all the bamboo.
I think because it was bamboo trees there. But I'm wondering if it is Yavin still, but just a different part of Yavin, where the Yesamari temple isn't. Is it Yesamari or the however you pronounce where the rebel base was? Yes. But anyway, we get Din flying over the lush mountains, and then we hear in the cockpit a beep, and then we get the panning down shot from a little antenna to that favorite blue astromech droid that everybody loves.
Yes, this was one of the first moments in that episode where I went, "Oh, this is interesting."
So we get the first of 6 or 5 characters appearing, don't we, sort of thing, with R2-D2 turning up.
Yeah, so R2-D2 performing the welcoming committee and leading
the air traffic control.
leading Din up to what is supposedly be a construction site where multiple, and I mean multiple with a big M, 6-legged ant-like robots are collecting big rocks and putting them on top of each other to construct some kind of, it looks like at that point, dome-shaped structure.
It reminded me of the Octu buildings, that Luke disappeared off to in Last Jedi.
Yeah, they have a very similar vibe.
Yeah, and very similar vibe to the Octu buildings. But what was the interesting thing is when Din got out of the fighter, he called R2 hello friend. Was it hello friend?
Yeah, something along those lines.
He called R2 friend, which I thought was quite thing. And then, of course, R2 leads him somewhere, and then, R2 then enters hibernation after the ant droids start building what looks like a bench.
Yeah, the very interesting and yet unbelieving voice of Din Djarin going, "Is that a bench? How long do I need to wait here?" And R2 just shut down. And yep. Well, I guess we'll wait some time.
Indeed. I saw an interesting comment about that was when they were trying to look for Luke in Force Awakens, R2 was asleep. Yeah. When Din Djarin was looking for Grogu, R2 fell asleep.
Yeah, it's just, no, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
Just leave me alone.
And then, of course, we cut to Grogu first. Now, you said... Did you say last week that you didn't think we'd see Grogu?
I think it would have been a bit too early, and I'm still surprised that he actually made it, because I was under the impression they would just have it as a side arc and not mention it more, so that the Book of Boba Fett would actually be pressed on in this episode. But, well, I'm wrong.
There's a lot of this episode. Well, it was 20 minutes of this episode, or the first 20 minutes, were just Din Djarin meeting Grogu, or that whole arc of the first act, or the first act and a bit. Well, the first act I would say was Tatooine. Yeah, the next sort of act, if you bung this into a 3 or 4 act, the next act was Din on and Grogu and the whole Grogu arc, and then the third act was when Din went back to Tatooine, and the final act is sort of what happened in that final section with maybe the the ending of it. You know, you could divide it into different acts, definitely. But yeah, I mean, we get to see Grogu meditating with an incredibly deep faked Luke Skywalker. That was an incredible
the
CG stuff.
The face was way better than in The Mandalorian. It looked astonishingly real, and at times you could almost forget that 40 years have passed.
Yeah, it was a different actor as well who was playing Luke in this one, compared to the actor who played him in Mando. And supposedly I was watching the Star Wars Explained podcast, because we're on YouTube, so they post up, you know, the analysis of the episode. And they went off and checked, and supposedly, I don't know how true it is, they're saying that Luke Skywalker alone, the effects for him, was $1 million.
Well, could very much be.
Yeah.
If you have enough people working on a project, that sums up pretty fast.
They hired Shamook, didn't they, the YouTuber who'd done the original deepfake for Luke.
Yeah, I think so.
They hired him, so it looks like it's probably his work while working in that, whatever the team, you know, we'll call it the deep fake team, but it's not. It's the I think their facial something or other effects team that it's called. It's got some proper dedicated team to it.
Yeah.
But that deep fake and was just incredible. And I saw another tweet which was interesting where they were talking about the voice.
Yeah, the voice is a beast on its own, because, and this has the potential for future generations to really fuck them over. Actors, that is. So the voice is not Mark Hamill. No. It's a synthesized version that has been created using deep learning and neural networking. Yeah. So they used old high quality audio they've got from him and just resampled the voice. Yeah. I've read that some people were complaining that the voice of Luke Skywalker in this episode would feel soulless, and I have to disagree. I rewatched the episode today just on that premise to see if I missed anything. He doesn't feel soulless. He's not devoid of emotions, but he has his emotions under control, like you would expect from a Jedi Master. He doesn't go on and shouts about people or is disappointed in things. He keeps a level-headed tone, like Yoda did when we had seen him last time in Return of the Jedi.
It's like Kenobi, how Kenobi acts and stuff like that, you know.
He doesn't need to put his emotions into his voice. He can make himself heard and felt otherwise.
Yes, it was just interesting that I saw people say that about the voice, and I thought, well, no, it's, and I think it's people are reading too much into the fact that it was a fully deep fake Luke with a synthesized voice. You know, I know when they did The Mandalorian, they did have Mark Hamill read the lines, and they took some of his voice and interlinked it with the machine learning that we're doing from all the interviews and stuff, so they could, you know, create a Mark Hamill sounding as he did back in '83. But what we've got to remember as well is this is 5 years after. This is 5 years after Empire. Sorry, Jedi.
So this is 5 years after Jedi. Isn't really that much as it was for the actor.
Exactly, but also the thing is he's going to have learned control. He's going to, you know, if he's the Jedi Master that we saw in the Mando, which he is, you know, if he's that powerful now, you know, he's going to learn to temper his voice, temper his thing. As you said, he knows how to use the Force to get his point across. It's a bit like Qui-Gon at the beginning of in Episode 1, where they're on about negotiations and stuff, isn't he? You know, it's like, you know.
The thing is, what I think scared most people is if they can start using old material in that way to get new scenes with new voice lines sounding very not surprising. What's the word I'm looking for? Convincing. You're potentially out of the job faster than you know if you've made yourself a career and maybe have sold off the rights to any particular character you've made. So currently, let's imagine you're doing a new movie today and there's a character that's brand new and you do just this one role, but in your contract it states everything you create within this movie is ours. You have no rights to it. And then they take this material and make 20 new movies, and they sell like gangbusters, and you don't see a dime.
Yeah, it's an interesting playing field, but I think, you know, Jon Favreau probably said it best that in the gallery series when they're talking about the last episode of Mando, about the fact that it is a tool. You know, it's a tool that allows them to do specific things. But you could probably see some companies, you know, doing.
Let's face it, new technologies has always been used to make people more money and need to pay others less. At this point, it's up to the contracts that, though they have a mark that says, you're not allowed to use that to make more money without proper compensation.
Yeah. But then, of course, after we sort of see this scene of Luke before he even speaks, you get Grogu with his old frog fetish.
The Cyclops frogs.
You know, so Grogu, you know, stretches his hand out with the Force to steal one thing. Luke opens his eyes. I think he sees Grogu, and then the frog falls to the ground and then jumps into the water. And then Luke uses the Force to basically pick up an entire field of them.
Yeah, but still Grogu doesn't get to eat any of them.
He still doesn't get to eat any of them,
Which I find is a very harsh lesson.
Well, it was more the fact that then Luke says, "Let's walk." But Grogu wasn't really walking, was he?
No, it's more like a one-handed Force version of what parents do with their children to keep throw him 2 steps in front. And so then we get a very interesting scene when Luke that helps him remember what happened in the Jedi Temple way back when.
But before that as well, he sort of says, "You remind me of somebody," and you know, and then he tries to do a semi-Yoda impersonation. But we get the music as well, which I thought was really cool. That we got Yoda's theme when he says,
"The music in this episode is something completely off the record to talk about, because in every scene where it's appropriate, they use the original scoring, which I found very, very well. It's good in a theatrical sense, but I find it almost what's the word I'm looking for?
Emotive? Because it was very much to play on the emotions of the scenes.
Yeah,
I think,
it's a bit backstabby drawing on strings.
Yeah, sort of. But then we get the cutscene of the Purge. Now, I'm not like other people. I didn't, you know, I saw a bunch of people, you know, a bunch of reactors. I've watched some reactions to it and stuff, where people in the reactions says, "Are we going to get to see his home planet?" I didn't think we'd get to see that. I think that's one thing that we'll probably never see.
No,
I think they'll keep that completely.
Where Yoda's race comes from is, I think, a mystery they shouldn't put their hands on. I don't
think we will get that. I think Dave and Jon Favreau and everybody will keep that one completely off, you know, off the limits, unless, you know, something pops up in Kenobi, but I doubt it. But it was interesting to see the 501st and the Purge.
Yeah, and especially seeing it from this perspective of Grogu's sitting in his crib and seeing 3 Jedi Masters or young apprentices or whatever they are. It's not clear, defending against clone troopers and all getting shot.
Yeah. Now I saw some saying that saw some people saying that the Jedi, the front Jedi, is the Jedi called Sin Drailing, and it's Drallig, yeah, and he's the chief of security at the Jedi Temple. That he was, you know, that he was the front Jedi, yeah. Now we can't be sure if it is him or isn't him, yeah, because he's seen in the holograms of Anakin killing him, you know, when Kenobi was reviewing the security tapes.
Yes,
he's sort of fighting, you know, Anakin alongside his Padawans, but then he was, you know, gunned. Then you have this guy gunned down in front of Grogu. So how are they retconning that? Because the retcon's something else as well, later on in the episode, which we'll cover. But it was just interesting to see from Grogu's point of view, what happened during the purge. But we didn't see who rescued him.
Exactly. We just see that the clone troopers notice him and come running up to him, and at that point we don't know what happens. He must have got away somehow. I'm guessing, and this is a completely off the rails wild guess, that we will potentially see that in the Mandalorian.
I think we'll see that one maybe on the Mandalorian season 3.
Also guessing that will be a moment where Grogu gives in to the Force and just uses his anger and squashes those people.
Maybe we'll see it in the Book of.
And that's why he's so reluctant using his Force when when we first see him in the Mandalorian.
True. We'll either see it in the Mandalorian or we may see it in Ahsoka's TV series.
Speaking of which,
indeed.
After he
There's a nice
Grogu
segue forward.
is coming back from his vision of the past. Din Djarin is awakened by a noise and is very quick on his feet, only to see Ahsoka going, "Oh, what are you doing here?"
It was like, "Oh, we've got Ahsoka now. Oh, right, that means everybody's going to lose their." As soon as I saw Ahsoka, I went, "Yeah, everybody's going to lose their brains because we're going to get a scene with Ahsoka and Luke. We're going to get to see Ahsoka and Luke."
Yeah, or as the internet might phrase it, we get a scene of Darth Vader's Padawan with his son.
Exactly. It's like the internet will collectively lose its shit over this.
Oh, they're going to lose their mind over a line that Luke utters later in the episode, I think.
Yes, well, the internet did. It completely lost it. As soon as we got, the first thing I've noticed on a lot of people was as soon as they got, we saw Grogu, was everybody just lost their shit over Grogu. And then when Ahsoka turns up, it was like, what are they doing? And then Luke turned up, and then Ahsoka, and it was like, what are they doing to her? What's going on with the Star Wars?
Yeah.
I saw an interesting one, and this is a little side, but I saw something really interesting. There's people complaining that the last 2 episodes of Book of Boba haven't really been Boba Fett, not been the Book of Boba, even though it's titled the Book of Boba. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got this, and I agree with this. Is it doesn't matter what it's called. It's good Star Wars.
Yeah, and also it's literally a book title. So if you read a book and it's called, let's say, The Game of Thrones, you're not reading about thrones all the time. You're reading about people around the story of thrones.
It's more the fact that my thing with it is more the fact is it's good Star Wars storytelling. It doesn't matter what the title is.
Yeah, I get that people are annoyed to a degree that the main character has been off for 1.5 episodes at this point. But then again, more people, would you please just keep calm and try to relax, enjoy the show?
Yes.
It's bad. It's written well, and it's nothing you actually can do about it, so enjoy it.
It's more the fact as well as, did you ever expect to see anything like this on television? No.
Yeah,
no?
People are weird.
Yeah. So we get to see Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka again, which I thought was really nice, and she has a little bit of a chat with Din. I quite like the line is, "I'm a friend of the when he says, what are you doing here?" He goes, "I'm a friend of the family. I'm an old friend of the family."
Yeah.
Which I thought was really just, she is.
And then they two do a walk, and it all ends with Din Djarin not looking very happy, which is quite a feat if you think that he's still wearing his helmet. Handing over whatever is in the little parcel. We don't know yet. I'll just say I was right.
Yeah, I think everybody was right about what was in the little parcel.
And then he heads off planet.
Yeah, and then we get the scene of Grogu putting his hand out as the ship flies off. But what was interesting is the questioning Ahsoka was asking him about, are you here? Are you doing it for him? Or are you doing it for yourself? Yeah. She was basically getting him to think about why he wanted to go and see Grogu and not doing it. He chooses to give Ahsoka the package to deliver on the spot, or she says she'll deliver it on his behalf.
Yeah, and then Luke continues training Grogu, making him jump, which I found up to totally cute par excellence.
But I was thinking more, it was to get him to jump, and then he has him in a backpack first. So it's clearly we're going back to Dagobah, aren't we?
No, the jumping is first. Then he takes him on the trip with a backpack.
No, he places him down in a backpack, does the jumping, then puts him back in the backpack.
Yeah, you're right.
Do some more. Then they do some Dagobah training, and then he picks up a what you call it, remote.
The training remote, which is hauntingly familiar.
So he's and also Grogu, if you watch, as Grogu's meditating, he's sort of watching as Luke's practicing with his lightsaber, and he's sort of looking at it with that sort of curiosity thing as well. So
that's big sort of childlike eyes, as you would expect.
Sort of that's a little bit of foreshadowing, shall we say, in some respects. But then, of course, we have the training remote where Grogu's jumping out of the way of the laser beams now. And then as it's doing that, we get the scene everybody wanted, which is Luke watching as Ahsoka enters the scene.
Yeah, and Grogu then, for some odd reason, crushes the remote with the Force. And I was a bit surprised that he didn't get scolded for it by Luke, because that was a quite aggressive turn. So, but Luke just goes, yeah, well done.
But then, of course, that sort of throws back to Mando, the last episode of Mando, which was where Luke basically crushed an entire Dark Trooper, didn't he?
Yeah.
So,
only one.
Well, he cut lots in half and then crushed a bunch.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is when Ahsoka sort of comes in scene, and we get them share, the conversation between the two of them, and then. I've noticed on the web where people were going, can we have them just sit down for 30 minutes and talk about Anakin? You may get that yet in the Ahsoka show, because there's some interesting casting news popped up about that, which we can do at the end.
Yeah. But then she hands Luke the little bag of whatever it is to Luke.
Yes.
And then bids her farewell, and at that point we have a sentence uttered by Luke that made me go, oh? So he asks her, will I see you again?
Yeah, and she says, you may.
Was it? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think wasn't the whole point of being a Jedi to cut ties with people you love because it makes you more vulnerable, yada, yada, yada?
Maybe, but also remember, Ahsoka isn't a Jedi.
Yeah, but she herself is admitting to that, and Luke later in this episode is going along those lines as well. So,
there's things. But what was interesting is when Luke says, when Luke was explaining to Ahsoka about where he doesn't think Grogu's heart is in it. That's she says that that Grogu didn't have a strong bond, and then she hands him the cloth, and then. Luke starts to admit he's wondering whether Grogu is committed to being a Jedi, and then Ahsoka, in the line that he says, she looks up and goes, "Just like your father, so like your father," which I thought was really good because she knows exactly what Anakin was like, because Anakin had those same sort of doubts. And then she says, trust your feelings, trust your instincts with Grogu, and then she disappears off and bids him, "May the Force be with you." But what was interesting as well is, if you listen to when she says that and turns to leave, the music is the Skywalker theme from Mandalorian. The ship attack, the destruction of the Dark Troopers. It's the exact same theme. So we've had, a bit of the Ahsoka theme, I think, in there. We had a bit of Yoda's theme in there.
As I said, the musical composer on this series is really playing strings.
Yeah. And then we get Ahsoka leaving, and then, of course, it cuts to Luke watching Grogu as he's resting on the rock after destroying the remote. And we cut back to the the N1 fighter entering Tatooine space and heading to
Was
the
Esbar.
to Jabba's palace.
No.
And then
yeah.
It's Jabba's palace because the N1 lands at Jabba's palace, and then we have one of the Gamorrean guards greet sort of as Din jumps out and says Fennec Shan.
Yeah.
So
on the request of Fennec Shan.
Yeah, and the Gamorrean grunts and then goes in, and then we get seen in the throne room with Fennec doing a briefing with the mods, as they're being called.
And also Boba Fett. So we have Boba Fett in this episode. Stop complaining, you wankers.
Exactly. And I thought it was really interesting that she actually said it, where she said Black Chrysanthemum. She goes, this is the Mandalorian Din Djarin, who nods, and Boba nods at him. So we get that scene. And then she goes, and Black, and then when she says, between him and Black Chrysanthemum, so they actually gave Chrysanthemum his proper, the title from the comics that he has, because that's what he's called in the comics, that they're the enforcers. We have enough experienced enforcers, we're just missing foot soldiers. But of course the Major Domo's there as well, because he says, the Major Domo to the mayor, and he goes, what was it?
The mayor has left the planet. Actually, that has been a long planned vacation.
A scheduled vacation. And looks at him as much to say, you shut up or you're going to end up dead.
Yeah, and then the Gamorrean guard he is chained to just grunts at him.
Yes. Pulls it back, So then, we then get, basically a bit of history that the crime families are willing to lay low and let the Pikes basically run the city, and then when that line sort of about Din coming in and stuff is a little bit later in the scene where she says, we're missing foot soldiers, and Din goes, I might be able to help with that. And then we cut to basically the N1 starfighter flying, circling a Standcrawler with a huge, great big dragon skull on it.
I love that shot. I absolutely loved that one. the sheer thought of some Javas finding that skull, holding it on top of their Sandcrawler.
Well, we know where they got the skull.
Yeah, obviously.
Yes, and then Din landing in.
What struck me a bit weird is they were actually waving at the N1 like they knew who he was.
I've got a suspicion that's the same, possibly some of the same Jawas that worked on the N1. I think that's what the
that's a possibility. I was thinking about the Jawas he made explodey going in the Mandalorian.
Well, there's those ones as well, but they weren't on Tatooine. They were on the same planet as Krill, where he got Grogu from. It wasn't Tatooine.
Oh yes, you're right.
So
different desert planet.
Different desert planet, yes. But definitely, I'm wondering if it's the same Jawas that knew what's her face from the last episode and helped build the N1 or the souped up N1. But that N1 really does remind me of, and we've had people complaining about the mods on their mopeds, which are pretty much what George would have picked because it's that 1950s vibe of of the gang vibe. The N1 really does, with that stuck out part of the engine at the top that looks like a.
That's a 1930s hot rod.
Yeah, it's a hot rod. It's something that George would have put in American Graffiti. It's definitely something like that. From the 50s, that sort of hot rod style.
Yeah, and also that would be something that would fit in the narrative of Luke Skywalker going to Toshi's station to get some energy converters just to hang and tinker on vehicles.
Yeah, it was very much something that George would have put together. So, people complain about the mods, and even I don't think anybody's complained about the N1, which is a little bit strange. But, it's very much of George's branding within the tech was very much of his childhood, I think, and they've just taken that through. But then we get the N1 landing at Mos Pelgo. And
we get introduced to Deputy Dickhead.
Yeah. Red shirt number 1.
The second that guy opened his mouth, I was thinking, he's not going to end well.
No, I was expecting Din to go, get out of my way.
Just punch him in the face or something.
Yeah, and then we get Cobb basically coming up behind the deputy, going, I'll deal with this. And then, of course, he asks where his little friend is. He said he's taken back with his said, "Oh, that's a shame."
Yeah, so we both lost something that was valuable to us, referring to his armor.
Yeah. And then when they're in the canteen and they're talking, where Din's trying to get some assistance, and explain what's going on, he calls it by Mos Pelgo, and then the Weequay tells him, no, it's now called Freetown.
Yeah, which I find hilarious, having people renaming their cities.
That's what it's called in the book. That's
also called Freetown in the movie.
Yeah, so now they've taken. Yeah, Freetown was what it was called in Aftermath, in the novel Aftermath, which is where Cobb Vanth was introduced. So they've actually taken the thing from Aftermath and put it into the TV series, because Aftermath is setting up Force Awakens? Yeah, it's setting up Force Awakens. So you've got those 3 novels that are setting up basically Force Awakens, and of course Cobb Vanth in the Aftermath novel.
Well, but maybe we'll see a Cobb Vanth TV series.
Well, there's rumblings that the Rangers of the New Republic isn't cancelled, that it's still there. They're just trying to rework it. But I'm wondering, because originally it was going to be Cara Dune's TV series. I can still see her coming back to this, but we'll see. But where they rework it, maybe with Cobb Vanth and the New Republic commander, that's there. The pilot one. But then we get the conversation between Din and them, and Din flying off. And then we get the lone figure coming out of the desert.
Just before that, Cobb Vanth is asking the Weequay to gather all able men.
And all able men and women of fighting, to come in.
So, because he has something to tell them that would potentially have a influence on their life.
That would possibly change their minds about what he's got to say. And then we get basically the title of the episode
at this point, we're going full spaghetti western 101.
We are. We really are. And it was like, as soon as I saw the silhouette, I went, yeah, they've done it.
Well, the head is quite one of a kind in the Star Wars universe. At least what interesting characters goes.
It is, but it's not as wide as it is from Clone Wars. It's actually more of the design that they put in the Bad Batch.
Yeah, I think that's for practical reasons.
Oh, it's definitely practical reasons, because speaking of practical reasons, and they've said, it's been mentioned as well, that they did some work on the Leku for Rosario Dawson as well, to make them easier compared to what they were in the Mando and stuff. But anyway, we get a character walking out of the desert, so that is basically the title of the episode, basically. And it's from the desert the stranger comes, so we get the stranger walking towards them, and it's like,
and the deputy is telling everybody to get inside.
Cobb Vanth tells everybody to get inside. The deputy starts singing, and then he comes out and goes, "I'm not letting you stay by yourself." And then he tells him, "Get inside," as the stranger comes up, and as soon as the stranger comes into a better view, we all see who it is, and it's Cad Bane, and it's like, oh Jesus! Now, the very opening scene is setting up this completely, because in Clone Wars we know Cad Bane is a very efficient gunslinger.
Yeah,
he's fought Jedi. He's worked for the Sith. He outdrew Hunter in the Bad Batch.
Early next week. Yeah, he's nothing to be
sneezed at. There's the unseen episode that was written where him and Boba fight each other. There was an episode of Clone Wars, where they were going to season 7 before it got cancelled. Not the new season 7, but the previous ones. And there's an animatic of him and Boba doing basically this style of gunfight, and that's where Boba got the dent in the helmet, supposedly. So the dent in Boba's helmet is supposedly from Cad Bane in this animatic. I don't know if they'll bring that into if Boba and Cad will face off in episode 7, but we get Cad Bane and it's the voice actor as well. It's not him in the as the actor on screen.
It's Corey Burton.
It's Corey Burton's the voice, and he's doing the voice as well of Cad Bane. Yes. And as soon as he opened his mouth, it was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then speaking of mouth, the only thing that actually disappointed me was that they deprived him of his toothpick.
Not you as well.
Let's face it. It's a very distinct mark of him.
Yeah, it is very distinct, but it's like, it's
he
one
plays
small
with
thing.
it in the cartoon series all the time.
Yes, I know. And then of course
I would have given it if he just had it in his mouth and just spat it out prior, and it wouldn't have been seen ever since.
Mm-hmm.
But to completely not show it, I felt that was It's like I don't know, having a bantha with only one leg.
Yeah, but is it ruining your entire enjoyment of the episode?
It gives me something to nag about.
Exactly. But as well, of course, is we get the face off with them, with basically all the talking coming from Cad, but he never introduces himself.
No, he doesn't
Cobb
say his name.
His name. Never says his name, but he does warn Cobb about Fett being a cold-blooded killer that worked for the Empire, which is really weird because Cad Bane is a cold-blooded killer who worked, as I said, for the Sith, the Separatists, the Empire.
But let's face it, he's just pulling those strings to make Freetown comply.
Mm.
And
yes.
I think Cobb Vanth asks him 2 or 3 times of his name, and he just doesn't give a shit.
Doesn't answer. And then, of course, we get the stupid deputy, who's the one that sort of tried to draw first.
Yeah, and then gets shot by Cad Bane. Cad Bane then shoots Cobb Vanth, and then proceeds to shoot the deputy 3 more times.
Well, he shoots Cobb. The deputy draws. Cad Bane draws first. Shoots Cobb Vanth in the shoulder. If you look if you watch the scene, you can pause it. You can see Cobb is hit in the right shoulder. So he's not.
I think he shoots the deputy first, and then
he shoots Cobb and then spins to the deputy and basically blasts the deputy out of back to the Stone Age.
Yeah, so the deputy
can't even get his gun out. He doesn't even get his gun clear.
Yeah, he gets more than one hit to the chest and is quite dead. And as you just mentioned, even if you don't pause the situation, the scene, it's very clear to see that Cobb Vanth is hit not in the center torso, so in the shoulder, and the way he's lying on the side, I'm guessing he will be all right.
Yeah, I think Cobb, they're not going to do that to Vanth. He's definitely wounded.
Yeah, he will be wounded, but he will survive and potentially lead the people of Freetown to support Boba Fett.
To support Boba, yeah. But then, of course, Bane says, as long as the spice runs, everybody be left alone.
And then just walks off.
And he doesn't say Pike Syndicate, though. This is the interesting thing, and I'm probably reading too much in it. He says it belongs to the Syndicate. I'm definitely wondering, are they setting up Crimson Dawn here? Are they setting up the fact that the Pikes... And I think it could be a stinger at the end of, like we had with, what's his face? Moff Gideon turning up with the Darksaber at the very last scene of the Mando. I'm wondering if they're setting that up so that we get to see who's actually running the Pike Syndicate. Because I think the Pikes are basically... We know the Pikes, the Feline, and I think there was another criminal organization when Maul was running Crimson Dawn. And we saw those 3 elements on Mandalore, along with some Mandalorians, of course, as well.
Yeah, but I guess that's beyond speculation.
Oh, it's beyond speculation.
It could go any way at the current point.
Yeah, but definitely Cobb Vanth is alive, if injured. He definitely died, and then of course Cad Bane wandered back out into the desert, probably to his ship or to a speeder. And then we get a scene after that as well of the sanctuary being basically two Pike Enforcers entering Garza Whip's sanctuary. Sits down.
They sit down, refuse the offer to get their helmet polished.
Yeah.
Order something, but prior to them getting their order, they leave.
Leaving their camp tour, as it's called.
The weird droid just goes, "Sirs, you've left your what's it called?
Camp tour.
Yeah.
CAMTO, Canto, TONO.
Yeah, the ice bucket.
Yeah.
And at that second, the
goes,
mistress of the place just goes, "Oh shit!"
Well, we don't even get it. We just get the eyes open wide, don't we?
Yeah, she's looking not too happy, and at the next scene, we just see the front of the sanctuary going boom.
Now, Jennifer Beals, who plays the character, said people have to ask Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau to see if she survives. Because she could survive, just be very badly injured. You know, we've seen it. Maul got cut in half. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and let's face it. The second the droid utters the words, "You have forgotten your Camto," I'm pretty sure she knows exactly what's going to happen.
Could be running.
I don't know that she would waste time on running, just lay flat on the floor.
Exactly. So, you know, she might have survived. We don't know. It'd be nice. I would like to see that character survive and do more with Garza, because, you know, Jennifer Beals, the character just looked incredible on screen.
I'm still all for having her having a love relationship with Boba Fett. I'm not through on that one.
You're not through on that ship, but you know. And then of course we get the final.
You've got to say we have a very much lack of love stories in these episodes.
Very true.
The only thing I could remember from the top of my head is the one where they in the Mandalorian ship that frog lady from A to B.
Yes.
Everything else is devoid of any love or passion.
Yeah, it's all the thing. But then we get the final scene, of course, don't we? Where we find out what was in the little red cloth.
Also, it's the scene where we see what these androids were building.
Yes.
Let's call it the training hall, for lack of a better word. And
so we have Luke sitting there cross-legged with Grogu in front of him, presenting him basically the Beskar chain shirt. That's the Mandalorian.
Yes, chainmail armor.
Chainmail armor. Beskar chainmail. But then he gives Grogu
a choice.
A choice. He says, "In this box is a lightsaber." So he opens up, pulls out the lightsaber, and presses it on. And he goes, "This belonged to my master." Now that's a bit of a retcon, because in the comics, and this is a Marvel comic, so I don't know if it was classed as canon. I think it is. Yoda's lightsaber was found by the Major Domo of Palpatine, the one with the long leku and the sort of the spiky on it. It was actually found by him and destroyed by him, thrown into some fire pit or something. So it was actually supposedly destroyed in the comics.
Yeah, but then again, maybe Yoda had made himself a new one.
Maybe, but we never. Well, after the fight in the Chancery, in the Senate, Yoda disappeared straight away to Tatooine. So maybe there was one on Dagobah that he built. But I'm wondering if it is.
He goes out to Kashyyyk.
No.
Yes,
he comes back
because
from
he
Kashyyyk.
takes from Kashyyyk off in this weird egg-shaped rocket.
Yes, that wasn't. No, was that Kashyyyk? No, because he in episode 3 he's on Kashyyyk. He leaves Kashyyyk and comes to Coruscant.
Yeah, but after that, when he says to the people, I need to go into exile, is when he's on the speeder with Senator Amidala. No,
yes,
not
with
Amidala.
with Senator Senator Organa.
Yes.
So, but anyway, it looks like they might have retconned how Luke Yoda's lightsaber. Fine, they can do that. They're allowed to.
Or he somehow made himself a second
exactly.
one.
Anyway, but it was nice that we, so basically Luke is basically giving Grogu a choice of leave the temple, take the chainmail, leave the temple, join Dad.
Go be a Mandalorian.
Yeah. Stay on the temple, ignore the forgo the Mandalorian, and become a Jedi, and you'll get the lightsaber. And then Grogu looks up and goes, "Coo!" and we cut the black. And
and I think a very interesting thing that Luke mentions is that because of the longevity of the race of Grogu, a short period of your life is a lifespan for others. So he basically says to him, yeah, you might go with him now, but before you're getting noticeably older yourself, he will be dead.
So,
which is a harsh thing.
Very much. But, and then we cut to black, and then we come into the end, heading towards the final episode.
This is going to be an interesting one.
Ooh, well, are we going to get any more cameos?
If we get any more cameos, I'd be very much surprised.
I think we might. I think we might get a because as I said, going back a couple of weeks, that Kevin Smith did that interview with Dave Klein, who's the cinematographer, and he said episodes 5, 6, and 7 are the 3 that you need to concentrate on. Watch. That's when the show changes. That's when the show picks up, and we've seen the show pick up constantly.
I'm guessing if we see another cameo in episode 7, it's going to be in the last 10, 15 minutes to set up any story
future shows.
Future shows, cliffhangers, whatever you want to call them.
We may get that. I think we may also get some, because if Cad Bane is working for the Pikes, maybe there's other two muscle, so we might get some additional bounty hunters that we've seen from Clone Wars. You never know.
Potentially.
We know that this is the episode Robert Rodriguez is directing. He's directing the final episode. But it's still been written by Jon Favreau. This episode was written by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, so they both wrote it. That's why we got Cad Bane. That's why we had Cad Bane in the episode, because it was a Dave Filoni episode. Dave directed it as well, so
I think it's going to be an interesting episode, let alone for the question that hangs above my head is how the hell will they all fit this together in a roughly 1 hour episode to bring all that to an end.
I think we'll get an ending like The Mandalorian season 1, where we'll get a conclusion of sorts, but I think there'll be some sort of stinger, some sort of surprise. Yeah.
Surprise! Boba Fett loses and is killed.
Maybe.
I don't think that will.
Don't think so. I think
Boba Fett is one of the characters Disney will not allow themselves to get killed.
Well, I don't think they'll. From the characters there, I can see them keeping Cad Bane alive. Basically, because you've just introduced the character. I know that character has a lot of baggage, but a lot of history with him that they could easily explore in future shows. Fennec Shand will keep, that character. It's a strong female character that Disney want. Yeah, Boba definitely, and Cobb Vanth. I think the 4 sort of cameo characters. I'm not counting Grogu or Luke, but I think those characters will be the ones that that are very much strong in the Force to be alive. I could be wrong about Cad Bane, because I think we'll get the Rancor. I think we'll get Boba riding a Rancor in this episode coming.
Yeah, and it would be very nice if the Rancor then would eat somebody.
Yeah, but I think that's what we'll get. We'll get Boba riding a Rancor in episode 7. I think we'll get war. I think we'll see different, like the mods helping, and I think we'll get Cobb Vanth helping. We'll get the Pike coming in, but I've got a suspicion that the Pike Syndicate's being backed by Crimson Dawn. So I think we will see
the Jawas come rushing in.
Yeah, we know that the episode's going to be the war episode, or the fight anyway, because it might just be a bit like that one on what happened on Navarro, yeah? But here's one which I've just considered, could be wrong. What if we get some Mandalorians fighting with the Pikes? If they're going down the route of this, the Pike Syndicate, if they decide to do the whole thing that it's the Pike Syndicate, but they're part of Crimson Dawn. I'm going to keep using Crimson Dawn because that's what they're called. We know Maul was on Mando when Crimson Dawn was founded. And he had not just the syndicates there, but he also had the Mandalorians.
Yeah, but I don't think the Mandalorians are set up in this series of episodes as a gun for hire for everybody. I think they have some dignity, some respect for who they're working for.
Maybe, but if they do decide to go down the route of the whole Crimson Dawn, the Shadow Collective as it was called as well, and Kira, possibly making an appearance. She could bring the Shadow Collective in and have links with Maul, thus having a links with those Mandalorians that sided with Maul. And remember, some of the ones that sided with Maul basically were the what do you call it? The Watch.
Mm-hmm.
Which means I've got a suspicion, and I think this will probably be explained in season 3 of the Mando more than anything else, that the Armorer and characters like Pre Vizsla were part of the Shadow Collective. I think the Armorer is one of the characters that we've seen from the animated series. They've just called her the Armorer. They haven't given her name from Clone Wars season 7.
This is what I like about the current state of Star Wars with Disney.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much potential in everything they do on The Mandalorian and on the Book of Boba Fett, and it's just, it's almost annoying. You can't really guess where it's going. And even if you try to do it, you're still getting some things that make you go, WTF am I watching? In a positive way.
Because I think we're like, no, we know that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are basically trying to link the Mandalorian stuff to episode 7. So there is this coherent time going on, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily, they're not trying to do anything with the stories from 7, 8, and 9, because we know there was issues with them, yeah? But they're trying to at least link the timelines between what was going on in the Mando season 2 with Moff Gideon and the cloning facilities and the clones, through to, elements coming from Rebels and Clone Wars. And the reason being is we know where Dave Filoni was. Dave Filoni sat at the right hand of George. He was there. I think if George had kept a hold of Star Wars, had kept a hold of Skywalker and had decided to step back without selling it, if he'd stepped down, I think Dave Filoni would have filled that void. He would have been the heir apparent, as people say, yeah? Because he worked with George. He was the one that understood Star Wars. That's how he got the job. And we've seen the interview that he did about how he got the job, and all of that. And now you've got people working on a show that aren't just creatives. They are fans. They understood the creation George put in place.
Yeah, they
totally understood it.
They don't do a movie or a series because they get good money for it, or it's a challenge to do. They do it because they really want to.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we can all, we can complain about 7, 8, and 9, but at least as well with 7, J.J. Abrams was a fan. There was issues over the story and all of that, but still, the director was a fan first. So there is some love in there. The story and other things we can complain about, stuff like that.
I feel hard pressed to compare Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett with episodes 7 to 9.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean. There is issues there. There are issues there, but at least the person who was behind the camera trying to do something in episode 7, especially, was a fan first and foremost. Yeah. but they just didn't have the writing down. I think, there's been a call, and this is interesting, that, whatever happens, say, with going forward with movies, that one of the things they should do is give Bryce Dallas Howard a film to direct, give her a Star Wars film to direct, because her episodes of The Mandalorian and Book of Boba have just gotten better and better and better.
Yeah,
She
really went above and beyond.
She did with her episode, and with the episode where she introduced what's her face, Katie Stakhov's character, Bo-Katan, and then even introducing Gina Carano's character. That was her episode as well. So she's introduced a new character, she's introduced a established character, and then she brought back the Mandalorian and knocked it out of the park with that one. But if they ever did that, say, for example, give her a film, what they need to do then is go to Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and go, you write it. Because I think that's the problem that we are having with Star Wars movies, is not so much the directors, it's the writing, it's getting the tone, it's the understanding. And if you can give it to creative people who understand it, like Dave and John, Bryce, even Robert Rodriguez, to direct, I think you'll have a winner. I'm really interested to see what Patty Jenkins does, because I think Patty Jenkins is an incredible filmmaker. And if she's written,
just interrupt you for a second. I just stumbled across something. As you said, Bryce should get her own movie. I was just looking at what she also has done as a directress. She is in pre-production on a movie called Flight of the Navigator.
Yes, she's redoing Flight of the Navigator is it for Disney?
Yes. And I don't know if you know the original movie.
Yes, I know the original movie.
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
You do know as well is that she also acts.
Yeah, the list isn't. You cannot see the list of acting she had done.
Oh yeah. Well, she was a little girl. She's an uncredited little girl in Apollo 13. And then went on to do a bunch of other stuff, and then of course turned up in Jurassic World.
Yeah,
that's where she was sort of the big acting thing, the big franchise that she's done.
Because her what made me see this as a special interest thing is the other directorial things she's been credited for are shorts or documentaries or a music video. This, The Flight of Navigator, would be her first major movie.
Yeah, and it's for Disney.
And it's a interesting story.
Oh yeah, I've watched the original. It'll be a really interesting one to think. But speaking of things like casting and things like that, I saw something, and I don't know if it was announced, but Hayden Christensen isn't just playing Anakin / Vader for Kenobi. He is turning up as Anakin / Vader, whichever one it is, in Ahsoka.
I'm going to go with Anakin in a flashback scene.
No, I'm going to go with Anakin as a Force ghost.
Well, that's a possibility too.
I think we could even get a flashback of him as Vader and Ahsoka fighting each other in the temple from season 2 of Rebels.
Yeah.
In live action.
Again, we could see anything happen currently with the ones who are at the helm of Star Wars currently.
Exactly. But we are getting Anakin turning up, Hayden turning up in Ahsoka as well. And the other rumbling, of course, is Tamura Morrison's going to turn up in Ahsoka as Rex.
Clone Warrior.
Clone Captain Rex.
Some clone, at least.
Yeah, some clone. And he's filmed some stuff for Kenobi as Cody. It's like, technically you don't need him anymore. Trust me, you can use the deep fake stuff. Okay?
Well, maybe they are deep fakes, we just don't know it yet.
Well, they sort of used the deep fake / CGI technology, didn't they, for all the clones when we saw them without helmets in episode 2. Yeah. But the technology just wasn't there. Imagine what you could do now.
A lot of things.
Mm.
But let's get back to this season 1, episode 6 of Book of Boba Fett. What's your
Which
overall
I loved
judgment?
it. It was just. What are we seeing? What are we getting? They
Yeah,
introduced. My big thing was, yes, it was nice seeing Luke and nice seeing Ahsoka and Grogu. Yeah, we knew. I thought we would probably get them. But my big thing was it's Cobb Van. Sorry, it's what's his face? It's Cad Bane. They did it. They introduced Cad Bane. It was like, yeah,
and
okay.
and yet still people complained
Oh God,
because the
yes, they
mask didn't look
did.
as he would in the cartoons, and I was just going, "Oh, people, please go
Yeah,
stick it
just
to yourself."
yeah, I saw that as well. That somebody now that guy's been getting stick on Twitter, and he said I just did it for myself. Yeah, the one that did the redoing, the redoing of it, make him look the hat a little bit wider and the face and
Yeah,
everything to match the comic
the
books.
mouth a bit lower.
But then what he did as well is he took a picture of Christopher Lee as Dooku and did Christopher Lee's Dooku as he should look from the animated as well, just to go just to try and shut people up.
Yeah, it's like people forget that Clone Wars and Rebels are all highly stylized.
Yeah, it's people forget that it's a cartoon. It's not live action.
Yeah,
With
and they
live action, you're going to have to make some changes. But I think CAD was predominantly a mask practical effect.
yeah, I think that what has been generated computer wise is the eye section. I think
Yes.
that's After
Hmm.
Effects.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely the eyes. The same way that they did Spider-Man's eyes and all of that for the costumes of that. Is those are CG. Deadpool's as well. Those are CG.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main reasons why Cat Bane is looking down so long in
Hmm.
the first few minutes of that
Yeah.
scene.
Hmm. What's interesting, and I didn't know this, that they based Cad Bane's character from a spaghetti western. The actual character is based on a character from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly called Angel Eyes, who was Lee Van Cleef's character.
Well, isn't that quite obvious?
It's not. I didn't. Well, the hat is when you look at the new version of the hat, but originally I didn't know that. I mean, I understood that the character was a gunslinger, was based on the older spaghetti westerns, but they're actually predominantly based them on the Lee Van Cleef character from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly,
I think
which I thought was quite interesting.
what puts you off the trail is the lack of nose.
Mm, true.
Simply because that's a very distinct feature of him being in the spaghetti western with his very
Hmm.
distinct hawk beak nose and his
Yeah.
squinty eyes. And
Hmm.
with Cat Bane, you only get the squinty eyes and the nose is gone completely.
Yeah. It's the look of the Duros anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it was just interesting that they said, they based him on Lee Van. Yeah, it says here, Corey Burton, the voice of Zero the Hutt, Count Dooku, the provided vein, which was based on Lee Van Cleef's performance from The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. So the actual voice that Corey does is based predominantly on the character of Angel Eyes, it was just interesting to see that and go, now I can see it. Especially when you watch that classic spaghetti western.
Yeah, I
But
think I need to find a source for that to rewatch again.
yeah, but
It's one of my personal favorite
mhm,
spaghetti western, The Good, Bad, and Ugly.
yeah, it's just interesting that they based them on that iconic. I wouldn't say that character per se, because Lee Van Cleef played a lot of iconic characters in his career. It's more the fact that the actor, came as that, because he was in the other two spaghetti westerns that Clint Eastwood did. So he was in the second one, the Fistful. He was in A Few Dollars More, the one with the watch and this in the thing. He was the other bounty hunter that was hunting the guy to duel with the music watch and stuff. But it was just really interesting. I read that and said, now I see it. I didn't see it before, and I'd never even read that bit. But after I read it, it was like, yeah. But before we close, there's one other speculation to think about as well, of sorts. Do you think Cad Bane is the one that butchered the Sand people, and to blame it on the biker gang?
No,
You don't?
no, I don't. I think that Cat Bane would be too expensive for such crude work.
Mm.
I think that has been done by a mob of what's that called again?
Pikes. Just to blame the.
Just to have superior firepower, roll over them, shoot everything to bits, and then go home again. I don't think that's a job for Cat Bane.
True.
And
But
let's face it, if he were to do that alone, no matter how fast he could shoot, there would be too many people shooting back.
True. Very true. But it was just an interesting thought of us. I wonder if the Pikes did hire Cat Bane for that, you know.
He may have led the attack, but I don't think that he would be alone on that.
Very true. But anyway, what did you think of the episode?
I was fascinated the whole way through, and for different reasons at different times. The part where Luke goes, "Will I see you again?" struck me as a very weird dialogue choice. The moments where I actually realized what kind of music they were running in the background got me really thinking about what are they doing. And some characters that had been introduced was just like, oh, this is so tropey. I'm going to enjoy how he's going to screw up later. But let's face it, the second Deputy Dickhead appears on scene, I immediately know this guy is going to cause trouble some way or another, or get himself into trouble. He will play a major part later in some involuntary way, and he gets himself shot.
He does. What's interesting about the actor who plays the deputy? The deputy was called Scott, by the way. Yeah, it's JJ Dashnor is his name, right? Guess what he's got credits here as Boba Fett full armor double for episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4.
They really make the most of their stunt players,
players, yeah. So he's according to this, he's in 6 episodes of the series, right? So he must be in next week's episode as a stunt person. But he's down as stunt coordinator as well. He was a stunt coordinator on the Book of Boba, but he's down as contribution Boba Fett, full armor double, full armor double, full armor double, full armor. It just says for episode 4, and then episode 5, of course, as Scott. You know.
But did it help? No, he's dead.
No, he got shot lots. But yes, it was just quite interesting that he's you know he's Timura Morrison's stunt double.
Yeah, it's
We'll pay your scale, plus you can be on screen as an actual without the helmet on. Okay.
Yeah, but you still need to do your own stunt.
Yeah, you still need to take a couple of blaster bolts, or pretend to take a couple of blaster bolts to the chest.
Well, him being quote unquote just a stunt double redeems some of his clunky acting. But then again, that could be on purpose for the actual role.
True. Yeah, it could just be the fact that you know that he was meant to be a bit of a dickhead and get shot for his trouble.
A very nervous freshman.
Yes, very much the rookie.
Yeah. So this almost wraps up the Book of Boba Fett, and I think I'll be glued to my seat next Wednesday when the next episode comes crawling out of the digital vaults.
Indeed.
Depending on how workflow is, I might actually put my break to a different time on that day to get an early look before people start spoiling it.
Yes, because the internet's going to go ballistic, I think, with the last episode. There'll be that much.
I might be imagining things, but I think with this episode, they were up and above with spoiler mode almost instantaneously. I didn't see as many references for the current episode for any of the last 6.
Yeah, there was a lot of internet straight away as soon as the episode sort of was airing.
Yeah, and I don't get it. I really don't. If you've got complaints, put a spoiler tag in front and then start complaining. But people just putting out pictures left, right, center, and
Yeah.
spoiling the fun for everybody. What's wrong with you?
I suppose I'm lucky in the fact is I can sit and watch it at like 8 o'clock when it drops in the UK.
Yeah,
So I'm not getting hit with the spoilers the same way as lots of other people would.
sometimes like people don't realize other people's need to work and
Yeah.
maybe don't have time watching anything interesting in a relaxed way before the weekend. So just keep your mouth shut for a week. Is that too much to ask?
Yeah, just hold your horses. But on the whole, good episode. Definitely looking forward to the season finale, and we'll see if the season finale leads into anything else. You know, a season 2. We've not heard anything. You know, is it going to link into Mando season 3? You know, I mean, that might be the obvious. That might be the way of doing it. You know, we get Mando season 3, and then we get Book of Boba season 2, or chapter 2, or whatever you want to call it, after Mando season 3. You know?
Yeah, they could be onto something here with the story arc. Though I think if we don't get a conclusive end with the Book of Boba next week, I'm guessing they are almost pressured into doing at least one more season to get a conclusion on this. What do we call this kind of? It's not a Western story. It's not a detective story.
It's redemption.
But is it?
Sort of, because of Boba.
Yeah, Boba. He's not the high killer profile type anymore, but he's still claiming to be the head bad guy of a city.
Yeah, but I think it's more of a story about him understanding his place in the galaxy. Because if you think about it, he was that constant, that constant of being the merciless killer. He's Cad Bane. He's the opposite side to what Cad Bane is. If you think that Cad Bane hasn't changed from when we first met him in Clone Wars right the way through to now, right? He's still that remorseless bounty hunter that'll work for anybody, where Boba wants to do it differently. He wants to work for himself, but he doesn't want to operate in the same way that the Hutts and the Pikes and the Syndicates do, by using fear and basically butchering everybody. He wants to do it with respect and do it completely different. So it's a way of him not only understanding his place in the galaxy, but also redeeming his own, shall we say, reputation in some respect.
I'll guess we'll just have to wait on how
all
this ends next week.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, this has been a longish episode. Called for a rather long episode of the Book of Boba Fett. I thank Ralph for being here. You lot out there listening, stay safe, stay away from the internet until you've had the chance to watch next week's episode, and after that you can come back to us and hear us bitch and moan about details we've been seeing. With that said, have a nice weekend. Bye.